It has been a long time coming. Since 2018, we can finally say the Chargers are going to the playoffs. Our very first after hours Chargers playoff clinching episode that we've ever done. We've only done after hours for 2 seasons, but still going live after they clinched a game they had to have. Everything broke during this weekend. A very nice Christmas weekend. It was win and get in for the Chargers, and they took care of business. The Chargers are alive. They're going to the playoffs, and it's our very first show. Jamie, how are you celebrating?
I celebrated with Junius, actually. Junius was in town visiting some friends and staying literally right around the corner from my house, and we went and watched the first 3 quarters together. Had some drinks, got a birthday shot. My birthday's tomorrow. And Junius actually picked up my tab. So Junius, shout out to you. Thank you. It was fun hanging out. It was a perfect way to celebrate my birthday.
Let's do it again.
And the Chargers. And I will take credit because right before the game, I put out a tweet saying that I needed a 2+ score win for my birthday.
Yeah.
I also wanted 3+ touchdowns from Herbert, which didn't happen.
No.
But nonetheless, they won by more than 2 scores.
Yep.
And I'm going to take credit because they did it for me for my birthday. And that's the only explanation. So
happy birthday, Jamie. Welcome. Thank you. And Junius is a longtime fan of the podcast, a friend of ours. So yes, good dude. And I'm glad he was able to take care of you for your birthday and just for the Charger game. I have my drinks here that I'm celebrating tonight, and I'm celebrating with the absolute goat of Halloween. Actually, any candy at all ever in the history of candy, you can get it on Christmas. It's the Reese's Trees, which Reese is obviously the best candy of all candies. But when you get them in a tree or an egg for Easter or a snowman or a tree,
in any form, you're saying more than you need to say. Just Reese's,
but they're better as a tree or an egg than they are as a cup. And I'll die on that hill. So celebrating with a Reese's tree that I got for Christmas. But Chargers, huge win. The defense showed up today. We got a lot to talk about, but let's just talk about defensively, Jamie, because I think, Chargers haven't really blown anybody out all season long. Really, this game wasn't close since it began. The Chargers shut the door on the Colts very early. The score wasn't, they didn't blow them out early on. The score was a little close. I'm sure we were all a little nervous, but Colts going 0 for 10 on third downs. Defense getting 7 sacks, 3 interceptions, 3 4-down stops. The Colts had a total of 173 total yards of offense. They only had 3 points. They had a blowout win in a game they had to win to make the playoffs. They played for something, and they got the huge win. Defense was amazing. Obviously, the Colts offense sucks, but I know there's going to be a lot of talk about that today, or tomorrow or this week about how they beat Nick Foles, who didn't have any first team reps in practice, and he's past his prime and all that other shit you're going to hear during this week. But the Chargers have lost to backup quarterbacks for as long as Jamie and I can remember, right, Jamie? And when it mattered, especially, there were games that should not be close, and they were close. We can rattle off a bunch of them, but today they didn't make it close. They shut the door. They won 2 scores. Big win on the road on Monday night. So huge for the Chargers and this defense that really showed up today.
Yeah, the defense was huge. I mean, I think the best part of this was the Chargers correctly assessed the Colts offense, which is to say the Colts offense is dog shit.
Yeah.
And they realized early on that they could blitz pretty much every single down and get to Foles and rattle him, and he was not going to hurt them. I mean, at one point, Nick Foles was, I think, 0 of 5 on throws of 10 yards or more with 2 interceptions. And I think he found out, I think he wound up something like 1 of 6 or 1 of 7 on throws of 10 or more yards with 2 interceptions. So they boxed the Colts in. They pretty much stopped the run early on. They forced Foles to beat them. They forced him to be a drop back passer, and they pinned him in the pocket, and they rattled him. They forced a couple turnovers early, and they started racking up those sacks. And it was a beautiful thing. The game plan was perfect. The secondary played really well. We had 3 great interceptions. I will say, and I'm just going to throw this out there, I hate to rain on the parade. There were a lot of soft cushions
Yes.
early in that game. Derwin's back on the field, and we're seeing more zone coverages and more soft cushions. So hopefully that is not something that carries over into the next 2 weeks. Not that the next 2 weeks necessarily matter all that much, but still, they had so much success playing man-to-man and jamming guys at the line of scrimmage and forcing wide receivers to beat them off the line. I hope they don't go back to that same scheme of the soft shell and the cushions, because it hurt them a little bit early on and they adjusted and they got past it. But that's something that playoff teams are going to pick apart and have success against. So really don't want to see them go back to that just because Derwin's back on the field and they're starting to get healthy. But otherwise, the defense was absolutely amazing. I mean, everybody played well. You could even point to Kenneth Murray having a solid game. He had a sack. He had a couple run stops. There were a couple plays where he hung with tight ends and coverage down the field. Tranquil showed up a couple times in pass rush situations. I mean, everybody played exceptionally well from the front 7 to the back end. And the defense deserves a ton of credit for being disciplined and making plays when they needed a chance to. Or when they had a chance to. They've been playing good defense really well for the last probably 4 or 5 weeks, but that was the best start to finish defensive performance of the season, in my opinion.
Yeah, and even at the bottom of the depth chart, Chris Rumpf getting sacks late in that game. I mean, there a lot of people contributed today. We got the big interception from Michael Davis, who came off of his man, broke inside and had an easy reception for the pick. Derwin James, of course, with that great recovery, kind of stumbled at the top of the route, was able to recover, high pointed, and to be able to get his knee in bounds. I did not think he had that.
I didn't either. Live, I thought he only got the 1 foot down. I didn't see the knee at all.
Me neither. So the fact that he was able to get a knee in bounds was amazing. And then, of course, Zont, that pick as the trap corner, cuts the route off for easy interception. I mean, they were in cover 2 where Samuel could just read the quarterback. He read his eyes, broke inside and got the easy interception. So big turnovers, big 4th down stops. They tightened up on 3rd downs. They're 0 for 10 on 3rd down, which was amazing. They were 1 for 3 on 4th down. The Colts were. I mean, there was just so much to like about this defense. And the soft cushions obviously were troublesome early on, but it was easy to see that Foles just didn't have it, and he
wasn't going to hurt them.
No, and they made it work. 3rd down again, or excuse me, 3rd quarter again, no touchdowns. They did win the quarter 3-0, which they did last week too, but still going to have to wake up in the playoffs because they're not going to win a playoff game if they go 0 for again with no touchdowns in the 3rd quarter. But I mean, defensively, this was just an easy masterclass of out-coaching a very inexperienced head coach in Jeff Saturday, and then just being able to know what full strengths are and taking it all away from him. So it was amazing from a defensive standpoint.
Yeah, the defense was pretty much perfectly called all night long. Outside of 1 or 2 plays, there was a play where Michael Davis got shoved and gave up a catch for a 1st down, and then he got beat deep, but Foles overthrew it in the 1st quarter. But outside of 1 or 2 plays, the defense was more or less flawless for the game. Yeah. And they just kept turning up the heat. As they built on the lead, they kept turning up the heat. And once they knew that the Colts couldn't run the ball anymore, it was over. Yeah. I mean, they were coming hard. Mack got his sack, 2 sacks for Chris Rumpf. Fox had a great game. Everybody in the front
Kyle Van Noy.
Van Noy was great, both against the run and as a pass rusher and against the screen.
That play in the screen.
That play was beautiful. Great. He read that play perfectly.
Yeah.
So I mean, you could not have asked more of the defense to win that game on the road, 20-3. And get that 2-score win that they needed was huge. Unfortunately, now we have to talk about the offense.
Yeah. Let's start with good, because I know there's going to be some bad. The fact that they were able to, as soon as they the second to last 4th down stop, not the one to end the game, but the second to last 4th down stop, where they were able to get a stop. they were able to march down the field, and they ran it down the Colts' throat 6 times. Eckler was able to punch it in. It was a huge way. It was like how you wanted the Chargers to always win games. We had talked about how good teams are going to have to run late. They're going to have to bleed clock. They're going to have to just turn out yards, make it ugly at the end. And that's what they did towards the end of that game. And that last touchdown from Eckler was 6 straight runs. You got 5 from Eckler, 1 from Josh Kelly. They didn't need to go away from it. They were getting big chunks after big chunks. The Eckler gets tackled at the 1-yard line, and they just said, let's do it again and punch it in. They're able to punch it in, easy touchdown. And that part of the offense was beautiful. The way in which good teams are able to march down the field methodically, and they're able to eat up a lot of clock, convert on easy throws. Mike Williams was able to get some yards after the catch in that drive. I still can't believe we're watching a veteran wide receiver body catch, but that's for another day. But to have Eckler just march down, and I mean, quite frankly, the run game has been bad all year. And the fact that they're able to lean on it late and win that game with it to kind of cap off that game and kind of put the last nail in the coffin for the Chargers was beautiful. That part was very good. Now, Jamie, let's talk about the absolute awful offensive coordinator, Joe Lombardi.
Yeah. I don't even know what to say at this point anymore. I mean, that Colts defense is garbage. I mean, yeah, they're professionals and they're an NFL team, but that Colts defense is awful outside of maybe 3 or 4 players at the most. And I think, to me, if you want to talk about like the epitome of a Joe Lombardi drive and the biggest reason why they need to get rid of him, they intercept. You talked about Zont's interception in the third quarter, excuse me. Zont jumps a route, intercepts a ball. They start on the 26-yard line, the Colts 26-yard line after a turnover. Mm-hmm. They need 8 plays to pick up 23 yards, and they can't punch it in, and they wind up settling for a field goal. So that's less than a 3-yard per play average. Mm-hmm. That is Joe Lombardi to a T. They have the Colts on their heels. At that point, they're up 10-0, and they go, after a turnover, they go sack, 2-yard pass on 2nd and 12, a pass to Joshua Kelly for 9 yards. They wind up getting a 7-yard pass to Keenan on 4th and 1 for a first down, run on 1st down for 5, a 2-yard run, and an incomplete pass. They've got 4th and goal from the 3 in a situation where they're up 7 against a team that can't run the ball, can't move the ball really at all. And instead of running the ball down their throat and trying to punch the ball in and saying, you know what, even if we turn the ball over on the 1-yard line, they're not going to move the ball anyway. Let's just try to run the ball in. They kick a field goal. Mm-hmm. That's a Joe Lombardi drive to a T. And they had several drives like that. There was a drive in the first quarter, I think it was their first or second drive of the game, where they had a 3rd and 1. And instead of sneaking it with their 240-pound, 6'6" quarterback, they turn around and hand it off, and Eckler gets stuffed on 3rd and 1. I mean, they're just making things so hard. So many 1st and 15, 1st and 2nd and 12, where they're throwing the ball 4 yards, making things difficult. This offense should not be this difficult with Mike Williams and Keenan Allen and Eckler and Kelly and even Joshua Palmer. They couldn't get the ball to Gerald Everett at all today. I don't think he had a single catch today. I mean, how many balls do they throw behind the line of scrimmage? They're just playing it so safe, and there's just no killer instinct in this offense at all. And they're fortunate they scored 20 points today, because there was not a good offensive performance at all. Tight windows to throw into, very little time early in the game. It seemed like they protected them a little bit better late. But just a terribly called offensive game and a terribly executed offensive game, really from start to finish. They should have put 30 plus points up on the board against that defense. And the fact that they didn't is a direct indictment of Joe Lombardi, in my opinion.
So Jamie, I don't know if you noticed, but while you were talking about Joe Lombardi, we're getting rated here from the director. We're here. There's a lot of people in the chat here. We have now been rated here on our channel. We appreciate everybody joining us. Director, you know the director, longtime Charger fan. He's got a YouTube channel. Sent a bunch of all his viewers here to come watch us do the live stream. So thank you everybody for joining us. We appreciate you, and really sweet of the director to send everybody here. This is amazing during a playoff game. Thank you, appreciate it, everybody, director and everybody else. And we love you guys. So thank you.
That's huge. I had no idea that was going on. I was going on my rant. Didn't even see it. Not a clue. But thank you, director, for directing your people over here.
Yeah.
And this is a fun way to spend a night with the Chargers community.
Yes. Yeah. So thank you guys. Appreciate you guys being on here. And yeah, so I mean, there was some tough parts of this game where and again, thanks Director Peeps for being here. There were some really rough parts to this game where Joe Lombardi just made it ugly. I don't think we saw a lot of third down throws before the sticks a lot in this game. We saw we saw a very nice play design that worked on the flea flicker to Keenan Allen. I really wish he would have stepped out of it.
It worked. I'm not sure I would say that was a nice play design, but it worked.
Yeah, you don't think so?
No.
I mean, they bit hard on that run. He was if he doesn't get rid of it, it's a really, really bad play. But Joshua Kelly's able to get rid of it, and it left Keenan Allen streaking wide open. You didn't like that play design.
Yeah, I didn't care for it. I thought Kelly almost got hit before he pitched it. I was terrified that Herbert wasn't going to catch it or they were going to fumble the pitch back. It worked. They got and in fact, I was surprised that they called it back. I thought it was a touchdown. I saw in the replay, it did not look like Keenan stepped out of bounds. I didn't think he stepped out at all.
Yeah.
But it worked, but it took way too long to develop. The operation of the play in general wasn't all that great, but Herbert made a fantastic throw after kind of a questionable pitch back, and it worked. But it was another one of those Joe Lombardi plays, in my opinion, that we probably don't want to see again, even though it worked. I think they were fortunate that it worked out.
It's not a thing that I want to see very often. I thought in that spot, I believe it was second down. I thought the time when I saw it happen, I thought, man, this is good timing. But yeah, it was scary. Joshua Kelly looked like he was getting hit. It wasn't a very clean pitch. Herbert was able to catch it, and Keenan's streaking with a defender trailing. It worked. He ended up stepping out of bounds, unfortunately. But and I'm glad you got the house partying over there too. For the playoff win.
Everybody's getting involved.
Yeah. And another impressive play, the sidearm throw to the Mike Williams screen, where Mike Williams getting some yards after the catch. That was a beautiful play on both sides.
That was another play that was not terribly well designed, but it worked.
Yeah, I loved it. I thought that was a great throw by Herbert. Good little sidearm pitch there, and I know everybody wants to talk about this Derwin James hit and getting ejected. I mentioned a little bit on Twitter, Jamie. And Joseph here wants to ask about it. How did you feel about the ejection from Derwin James?
So, I thought watching it live, it looked like he hit him in the head because the receiver's head bobbled back and forth after he hit him. On slow motion, it was clear that he did not hit him in the head. He hit him on the shoulder. But he led with his helmet. And I think that is the call that's going to get you that personal foul 9.5 out of 10 times.
Mm-hmm.
You drop the crown, you drop your helmet, you lead with the crown of your helmet, and you hit somebody up around the shoulders or above the shoulders. Doesn't really matter where you hit them. They're going to call that. It just is what it is. And it happens so fast that there's no way that they can decipher whether he hit him in the shoulder or in the helmet. And I think in that situation, because he had just had a personal foul call for grasping the face mask, it was his second personal foul of the game, and that's why he got ejected. Am I mistaken on that?
I don't think that's why. No, I don't.
Because I think 2 personal fouls gets you ejected. I think, but I could be mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
But
Okay, but go ahead.
it was watching it live initially. I was like, oh no, he hit him in the back. I don't think he got him. He clearly got him on the shoulder, but leading with the helmet at full speed, seeing somebody's head bounce around the way it did, that call is going to go that way pretty much every time. And it's really hard to fault the officials for calling it the way they did just because of the way he hit him with the crown of his helmet. Even if he didn't hit him in the helmet, he hit him high with the crown of his helmet, led with his helmet. That's just the way it's going to be called.
Yeah, so they didn't specify like this is the player's second personal foul. He's been ejected. They just said personal foul, and then number 3's been ejected.
Oh, okay.
Shortly after that, so I don't think they correlate. I don't think that was it, but yeah, so the fact that Derwin led with his crown on the replay, you could see that he hit him in the shoulder. Obviously, it's close enough to the neck and head area that live it looks really ugly, and it looked like while he's leading with his head, he's still trying to throw his shoulder. So I know the intent I don't think was there to go head on, but really Derwin was just going for broke. I mean, he could have easily wrapped up and tackled him. He could have made a hip tackle or gone a little bit lower, but he wanted to make a statement there. And quite honestly,
he wanted to break the pass up, which is his job in that situation. So
well, sure,
you can't fault him for hitting somebody like that. But I think you also can't fault the officials for calling it the way they did because of the fact that he led with the crown of his helmet.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, just repeat what I said earlier. It was clear to me that the first contact was made helmet to shoulder, not helmet to helmet.
Right.
And the helmet to helmet contact came because his head slipped off the shoulder and hit him in the helmet. But he hit him high with the crown of his helmet. You're going to get that call at least 9 out of 10 times. Just based on the way they call it.
Now, so I would have definitely given him the penalty. I thought it deserved 15 yards. The ejection I think is questionable, but I think what becomes kind of a moot point in my mind is that as soon as Derwin tried to get up, he was wobbly.
Yeah.
That is a guy that needs to go on the sideline and go in the locker room immediately. So whether he would have been ejected or not, I don't think he should have played the rest of that game anyway. That was a bad, very clear guy who was not all there at that moment and needs to be in concussion protocol immediately. So really, I don't think Derwin would have played even if he wasn't ejected. I know he was kind of walked to the locker room and he was pretty pissed about the call and all that. But yeah, quite honestly, he shouldn't have been playing after that anyway. So I don't know about the ejection. I don't know if it warrants throwing him out of the game. I know that it's definitely a penalty. I would have called it too. I'm also on the fence about whether to eject him or not, but regardless, he wasn't going to be playing after that anyway. So in my mind, it didn't really matter.
Yeah, I agree with that. That was a point that I missed is he clearly had a hard time getting up. He was kind of wobbly and staggered a little bit. So he was probably coming off the field and coming out of the game either way. It just sucks that he's probably going to wind up getting penalized for that hit.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And who knows what else comes out of that. So
yeah, that's going to cost him some money.
Yeah.
Yeah. And James, so Derwin, when he was coming off the field, was tapping his shoulder. That was him pleading with the referees. I led with my shoulder, not my head. He was trying to plead his case.
And he did. He hit him. His helmet got him in the shoulder first, and then he made shoulder to shoulder contact as the helmet came through, and the helmet slipped up and hit him in the head. But yeah, that's a defenseless receiver with no opportunity to defend himself. Hit him high with the crown of his helmet. It's hard to fault the officials for calling it that way.
Yeah. Okay, so a couple questions here. Here we go. Dead President's 85. Thoughts on shutting down the starters until the postseason?
I'm torn on this, to be honest with you. I can see the merits for both sides of the argument. On the one hand,
still climb up, by the way.
They still have a chance to win the 5th seed. Mm-hmm. And you can make an argument that seeding doesn't matter and being healthy is more important than the seeding, which you could go either way on that point. I think you can, and obviously, with all the injuries they've had, not just this year, but pretty much every year forever, they're always hurt. So you can make a strong argument for, hey, let's make sure everybody's healthy and go in at full speed. I just think the one thing that I have is this is the first time in 2 years, really in 4 years, that they seem to be hitting on all cylinders and they're playing really well down the stretch. And I think even though momentum isn't really a thing in sports, I think with guys coming back, I haven't heard about Slater, but I know you've got news on Bosa for next season, which we can share here in a few minutes.
Next week, not
next
season.
week. That's what I meant. Next week.
Yeah.
Sorry. News on Bosa for next week.
Yep.
You've got Derwin working his way back in. SJD's been banged up. Pipkins has been banged up. There's a lot of guys who would probably benefit from getting some reps. I lean towards playing them because I think these guys need reps, even if it's just a half per game to keep them fresh. Especially if Bosa does come back, he needs to get some reps. I think to build to get back into game shape.
Yep.
But I don't know. I kind of think you need to get those guys some reps. In my opinion.
Yeah, I'm not sitting the starters yet. I think it's too soon. One, you're fighting for the 5th seed, but there's some issues here. The run game is not good enough. You can't go into a playoff game having Justin Herbert having to throw the ball 40 to 50 times because he can't run the ball. They got to get that going. The third quarter offense, absolutely abysmal. There's no way you can win a playoff game. It's not sustainable. If you want to win a playoff game, let alone go deep in the playoffs, if you can't score a touchdown in the third quarter, they've got to make that work. The offense is kind of not quite in sync yet, and I don't know that they're quite ready to be playoff ready. They haven't peaked yet, and I think with a week or two more of letting this offense click and kind of get that going in the third quarter, try to figure out this run game, I probably wouldn't be playing Derwin at this point. I don't know what his status is in terms of that big hit and whether he's got a concussion or if he's even in concussion protocol, but they've been fine with Alohi Gilman and Nasir Adderley. So I'm okay with resting Derwin a little bit. I'm playing Joey Bosa, but I might be doing a 50-50 split with Van Noy just to kind of start to slow roll Joey Bosa into game time rather than just throwing him out there and having him go 100% as soon as he gets in. I'm putting him on a little snap count early on. And, I just think that, some rotation. And when Joey Bosa comes back, which we haven't really talked about, is Kyle Van Noy was playing that inside linebacker spot while Joey Bosa was playing. So do you want to have Kyle Van Noy play that linebacker again, even with the kind of quote unquote emergence of Kenneth Murray, who will make a great play and then scare you half to death the very next play? But he's an emotional roller coaster and you just have to accept that for right now. But though he's playing better, do you have Van Noy part of that inside linebacker core? Do you have him as a third pass rusher? I think there's some things rotation wise that you kind of want to figure out early on. So I'm not totally in the stance that we got to absolutely rest starters and get them ready for the playoffs quite yet. I think, I would start to rest Derwin. I think somebody said something about
he's in the protocol.
Bailey is in protocol right now. So if he's in protocol, let him rest, man. Let him rest. Gilman and Nasir Adderley have done more than an admirable job on the back end. So I'm keeping those two in, and I'm letting Derwin be healthy, and when he's ready, hopefully he'll be ready by the playoffs. And news on Bosa. We got news for anybody that's new here. We got some info that we get from time to time. And right now, we know that Joey Bosa will be practicing next week. The goal is to get him into practice, and they will be taking him off the list and opening his window up this week, probably towards the beginning or middle of the week, which means that he'll be open to playing in 21 days. Is that the window? 21-day window. So they'll open his window up this week. He should be practicing towards the middle of this week. And whether he plays next week or not is still to be seen. But they're going to open up the window and start practicing him now coming up this week.
And you said earlier the goal is for him to have a full week of practice.
Yep.
Full week of full practices before they activate him.
Yeah, they want to have at least 2 to 3 consecutive full days before he starts playing. So if you start, you'll see it this week. If he gets 2 to 3 full days in, it's a good chance he's going to be playing. So that's going to be interesting. When they want to play him, the goal was kind of to get him up to full speed during the Bronco game in Denver. But this week he's going to be practicing, and they're going to open up that window very soon.
And that's good news because they need him back. Any help, especially on the edge with pass rush, is a huge deal for them right now.
Yep.
I know they had 7 sacks today, but against those better teams, they definitely need Bosa, both against the run and in pass rush. He'd be a huge help.
Yep.
So I see some people in the chat talking about who they want to play in the playoffs.
Okay.
And I see people saying they want Kansas City in the first round. Do you agree with that?
Do I say that one more time?
People are saying they want to play the Chiefs in the first round. Do you agree with that?
Over the Jacksonville Jaguars is what people do not like the matchup of Jacksonville right now, and they want to play the Chiefs in Kansas City. And I know they got beat by Jacksonville earlier this year, but I am all on facing Trevor Lawrence. I know it's a bad matchup. They got speed on defense. They absolutely crushed the Chargers. I mean, it seemed like a bad matchup on paper, and it didn't work out the first matchup, but I'm taking Jacksonville over a Andy Reid playoff team any day of the week. I know on paper the Jaguars seem bad in terms of the speed at the second and third level, and some of those pass rushers, but I am not scared by Trevor Lawrence or that receiving core. I'm taking Jacksonville. What about you?
I have mixed feelings on all the teams. I think I don't want to play Kansas City in the first round.
No.
The Chargers are 0-2 against them. Andy Reid seems to coach circles around Brandon Staley every time the Chargers play them. Even though the games have been close, they always find a way to pull it out. And it usually revolves around Reid scheming Travis Kelce open in key moments and Staley not being ready for it.
Yeah.
Now we've seen some growth in the defense, and maybe that's not an issue anymore, but that's not something I really want to test. And I have mixed feelings about Jacksonville and Baltimore. I think if I had to really choose, I would probably choose Baltimore, because that's assuming that Tyler Huntley is playing. If Tyler Huntley is playing, I choose Baltimore because I think their offense is very pedestrian right now.
Mm-hmm.
They're not running the ball especially well. They don't have a lot of weapons outside. Huntley isn't making a whole lot of plays. I'd be a little bit concerned about that defense because the defense suffocated Herbert so much last year that hopefully they've made some adjustments, but I don't think there is a great matchup for the Chargers. I would probably lean towards Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
I would say Jacksonville second, KC a distant third. I think you want to get hot in the playoffs, win a game, and then face them with some momentum, some heat behind you. I don't think you want to face Kansas City in the first round. They're just so good in Kansas City. Reid is so great. Mahomes is so amazing. I don't want that. I don't agree with that line of thinking at all.
So list these teams that you like. Let's go through the list of kind of the AFC here. There's Bills, Chiefs, Bengals, Ravens, Jags, and then the Dolphins, but we don't need to talk about the Dolphins. So if you're ranking I agree with you with Ravens, especially if Lamar Jackson's not playing. And boy, Jamie, I have to tell you, the fact that we can talk about playoffs this early is so damn
I know,
exciting.
right? We're not going to be sweating out the next 2 weeks.
We're not sweating out the last 2 weeks, and then we don't have like half a week to kind of like put in a film study of the upcoming game and like figure out like who, matchups and everything else. We've got 2 weeks to kind of coast here, look at the playoff picture and talk about for basically 2 more weeks about who we want to see the Chargers play. So Bills, Chiefs, Bengals, Ravens. I agree with you with Ravens. Let's say the Ravens have Lamar. Okay. Just let's do peak. Okay. So Bills, Chiefs, Bengals, Ravens, Jaguars. Who of those 5, who are you? Let's go most want to see to least. So
most want to see to least?
Yeah. A Lamar Jackson-led Ravens.
I think I would still say I would prefer to face the Ravens, even if Lamar is playing, just because he's banged up and they don't have a whole lot of offensive weapons. Yeah. And I think Staley can devise a scheme to at least limit Lamar. And I think with their pass rush, they would have a really hard time. I think with their pass rush, Lamar would have a hard time hurting them in the passing game. Mm-hmm. He'd have to win with his legs. So I would say Baltimore 1.
I agree with you there.
I would say
I've got Jacksonville next. Do you agree? Or are you?
I would go back. I'm on the fence between Jacksonville and Cincinnati. Mm-hmm. My hesitation with saying Jacksonville is Peterson coached circles around Staley in the first game, and I'm just not sure I want to see that matchup again. But everything went Jacksonville's way in that first game, and you got to think the Chargers get some more breaks. So I would say probably Jacksonville second, Cincinnati third, Kansas City fourth, and the Bills fifth.
That's my list. I think even with Lamar, I want the Ravens. I just think they just don't have the weapons on offense, and I would much rather go and play the Ravens even with Lamar Jackson. I think they've got enough talent up front to help at least corral Lamar Jackson. I know they've done it in years past, but this is a totally different team. Jacksonville is next. I know that's a bad matchup on paper, and they got a fast defense, and they've got some weapons on offense, but I don't think they compare to the weapons in Cincinnati, which Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. So that's why I've got them as third. And then I go Chiefs and Bills. I just think the Bills are the cream of the crop in the AFC right now, and that's the team I would not want to see. Is the Bills.
I would have doubts about the Chargers' ability to defend Chase and Boyd and Higgins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
those are three matchups that I think the Chargers would really struggle with across the board, really.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, that's why I have them third. But I think you can move the ball on their defense and score points on their defense.
Oh, definitely.
Whereas I would really rather have a win under the Chargers' belts before we have to start talking about Kansas City or Buffalo.
I know. And Cincinnati lost La'el Collins, which is a big loss for them this season. And there's people talking about the Titans in the chat, but they're 10th right now. They're behind the Patriots and Jets. I mean, that
Titans aren't going to get in. They're done.
Yeah. Who knows what's going to happen at 7 with the Dolphins? Because if Tua's not playing, who knows?
You could wind up. I wouldn't be surprised if you wind up seeing the Patriots in that 7 seed.
Yeah. All right. One thing listen, this is a pretty special episode. We had a director rate in here, which was fun. Still got everybody still here. Thank you for sticking with us for this long. We've got Lightning Round Patreon. It's included with a Discord. And I know we've got a lot of people in Discord in here. So if you're part of Discord, DM me and I'll pick some people that can join this little stream here and talk with us. So go message me now and we'll have some guests on here for the next 20 minutes. Don't make me regret that, by the way. Come on and be cool. And people were asking about Rashawn Slater. I got nothing on Rashawn Slater. No news whatsoever on Slater, but definitely look for both the next week. And then also coinciding with that, they'll open that 21-day window next week as well. So appreciate you guys. And if you guys got any other questions before we start letting some knuckleheads in here, just go ahead and send them our way. Anything else you want to talk about this? We kind of skated over the game a little bit. Is there anything else you want to touch on from this game at all?
I think we've hit on most everything. My big problem is I'm still really worried about the offense heading into the playoffs. I do not trust Joe Lombardi at all. I thought he coached this game scared, and the play calling was terrible today. I thought the execution for the most part was not great, but the play calling wasn't great. And I'm very, very concerned about what the offense is going to look like against a playoff team in 3 weeks. It really concerns me because they should have been able to cut through that Colts defense pretty easily. And they really had a hard time moving the ball. And that's problematic for me.
Yeah. How are you feeling about some bad weather? So obviously not us because we're here in Southern California, Jamie, because we didn't get any of that. But rest of the United States having a lot of bad weather. How are you feeling about traveling into? I mean, the answer is pretty easy because the Chargers run game isn't all that good. So, to get in the snow and not have Herbert's arm is definitely a bad recipe for the playoffs. But how are you feeling about a Buffalo or traveling to Kansas City in the snow or Cincinnati or something like that?
I mean, I never feel good about it with the Chargers, especially now that they're playing indoors and we know they can't run the ball. It's an issue. I do think they're starting to find some things. I mean, it seemed like when they really needed to run the ball, they had some success running the ball with Joshua Kelly. He's kind of becoming the hammer when they need it, which I think is a positive. But I mean, this team, I hate to say it. I know they're in the playoffs. We're all excited they're in the playoffs. They're kind of soft. They can't run the ball when they need to. Sometimes they can, but most of the time they can't. And I think that could pose a real problem going into Kansas City or Buffalo if need be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm having a hard time because it feels like Herbert and this offense is still succeeding in spite of Joe Lombardi, who's holding them back. And if they have to go in the snow and create a different game plan, I just have a hard time believing that he's going to be able to do that and not use Herbert. So,
and not to mention the only real advantage you have in the passing game in bad weather is the corners, the secondary not knowing where receivers are going. And everybody knows where the Chargers receivers are going right now. So I don't think that gives the Chargers an advantage. I think that's actually a disadvantage because the Chargers are running 5 or 6 yards downfield, stopping their feet and turning their back to the defense. The defense is going to know exactly where they are. It's going to be even easier to jump routes and break up passes and maybe force some interceptions. So the way the Chargers run their offense right now, I don't think is at all conducive to bad weather, both from a running perspective and from a passing perspective, because they don't play any of their players to their strengths, especially not Herbert. And there's really no surprise or mystery in terms of what they're trying to do on offense. And I think that plays to the defense's advantage, not to the offense's advantage in cold weather.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Just want to catch up on some of these questions. Thanks again, everybody, for joining us. What's going on in the red zone, Jamie? Cade's here like, hey, do they not trust Herbert in the red zone? And I mean, I said it on Twitter. I mean, they drafted a bunch of power forwards, and now here they are not being able to succeed in the red zone. Before we let on our first guest here, what are you feeling about this red zone?
I think there are 3 problems. The big one is they don't trust the offensive line to protect Herbert in the red zone. The second one is they can't run the ball. And I think they also don't have a clear identity in the red zone. And I think they're trying to build the identity of a team that can run the ball in when they need to. And they have not established that they're able to do that. So they're just, they always seem disorganized in the red zone, don't they? I mean, it just seems like they don't have a plan. They don't know what they want to do. They don't know who they want to get the ball to. They have this, basketball team that they referred to in the offseason, the power forwards that you referenced.
Mm-hmm.
There's no jump balls. Mm-hmm. They're throwing everything behind the sticks. They're not really challenging the defense at all. And I think those are the issues. I think it's really, I think it's just they don't know who or what they want to be in the red zone, and they're just having a hard time finding anything that works.
Okay, so we have our first guest here. And what I'm going to do here, because I know there's other people who want to come on, but I'm just going to, this one in particular is Nick Shep. He is obviously a friend of ours. You've seen him here in the chat. And I'm going to, basically what I'm going to do here is I'm going to let him in here. But what we're going to do here, Shep, is I'm going to set a timer. Hey, how's it going?
What's up?
This was a bold choice, by the way.
For the first one, I was like, oh, shit.
Wait So here we go. He's going to be our first one. Nick, I'm going to give you 2 minutes. We won't interrupt unless I absolutely have to. Whatever you got. And then also at the end of this, reenact this Staley stretch we saw on the sideline at the very end.
All right, fine.
No, all right.
2 minutes. Look, I think Jamie just said it really well. They got Donald Parham. He's the tallest man in the NFL. I'd like to see a fade route to him once or twice in the red zone. Like, I don't understand why they can't just isolate him out there, put everybody else in a bunch on the other side. This isn't that hard. And like you guys are saying, Joe Lombardi just scares the shit out of me in the playoffs. And they can't move the ball. This Colts defense is bad. the Cowboys put up 54 points on them 2 weeks ago. That's the type of offense that Justin Herbert and the Chargers should be having, right? They actually have better skill position players. They have a comparable offensive line. Justin Herbert's better than Dak. Like, I don't think that's in dispute from anybody, at least in this chat. And we put up 20 points with 3 turnovers. So yeah, that's my spiel. I mean, it's not original or new.
Yeah.
Fucking Lombardi sucks.
All right, so you're part of the let's say you pile on a lot in Discord, and
Okay.
we love you for it. Give us some good news, some positivity here from Nick,
Some
Chef,
positivity.
which I would absolutely love here live on a show. Is
You
Nick
know,
being positive.
KVN over the last couple of weeks turning into a difference maker, and somebody who they can rotate in and not have to run the play where Chris Rumph runs 7 yards past the play and then gets cut by somebody on an inside zone. That is a huge difference, and it means probably like 3 or 4 less first downs per game. I mean, like Rumph does that legitimately 3 times a game. He's like, oh my God, I'm so excited, I'm gonna get a sack, and then he just runs right by the ball and gets cut by somebody else. And it's just he's too undisciplined to play at. KVN's not falling for that. And him rotating in on fresh legs too, you can start looping him around. He can rush inside the same way that Bosa and Matt can. He's more of a power rusher than a speed guy. I like the ability to run a bunch of those twists and games up front, and that adding him, particularly with Bosa and Mac, maybe get Bosa lined up on some guards going forward. Like they can, it changes their defense in a way that I don't think they've had all year. Like they really haven't had any pressure since Bosa went down. I know they had 6 sacks today, but like
7 actually.
Oh, my bad. I mean, it's hard. They're playing a JV team, so like, congrats. But you know, like, I'm sorry if Chris Rumph has 2 sacks, like those sacks don't mean very much.
Can the Colts beat Alabama quickly before we? No, I'm just kidding.
No. yes, they can. But I don't know. Foles is pretty bad.
Yeah. And
Like,
who's
Jesus.
that? I like that right tackle, Fries. I like
Yeah.
his last name, not for anything else other than it's a dope last name.
I have said since Rivers retired that I think Rivers wins the Super Bowl that year. Hey, it's a backhanded compliment, Jason. I don't know if we don't know each other. This is kind of my brand, all right? This is what I do.
Jason's
he was complimenting KVN. You know, it was.
It's a big upgrade. That's all. and second KVN, they could get Murray off the field. They could play Murray. Like I know we don't want to mess with something that's been going well, but like Kenneth Murray is probably the worst player in football.
Oh.
And if it's not Jerry Tillery, I don't know.
It's Jerry Tillery is worse than Murray, at least at this point.
Murray played well today. He did.
Murray had a sack today. He had a tackle for loss. He showed up several times in man coverage. He's been not a liability the last few weeks.
That sack. Rewatch it. Drew Tranquil puts a fucking spin move on Quentin Nelson, and Murray gets stood up by a running back, and Foles has to step up from Tranquil's pressure against the best guard in the league. And Murray high tackle falls into Foles like he always fucking does. So I don't know. Whatever. I'm getting off my positivity.
Yeah. Okay. How are you feeling about a playoff berth? This is pretty exciting, right?
It's exciting, man. Like, I mean, I moved to LA 3 months before the Chargers did, so I like to joke that they followed me here. It's fun to see that, especially after like last year. Fucking LA is the most bandwagon city in the world, and everyone's a Rams fan all of a sudden. It's going to be cool over the next couple of weeks to see people start supporting the Chargers. Like, I'm down for the bandwagon here in LA. Like anything that gets them more fans and means the next time the Steelers come to town, it won't be like 95% Steelers fans is a huge positive thing.
Yeah.
So,
all right, Nick. Well, we appreciate you coming on. Obviously, a lot longer than 2 minutes. Anything else you want to? Anything else? Oh, odds are Nick doesn't like you either. That's
a safe bet with pretty much everybody.
if the question was like, have you gotten in a fight with Nick? Then like, yeah.
Probably. Anything else? We appreciate you, Nick. So thanks for joining us.
No, thanks for having me on, guys. I'll close with a mic dropping Melvin Gordon is on a practice squad moment. That's just it. Just on a practice squad. Fuck that guy.
One last dig.
One last dig at Melvin Gordon. Thanks, Nick. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Okay. Well, that didn't go as bad as I thought, which is positive. I thought he was going to make me regret.
He wasn't positive, but that's a positive.
Right. Yep. Of course I did get Melvin Gordon. You knew that was going to happen. So send in your questions. I'm sure we'll get some more people on, or we won't. I don't know. My inbox is too full now. I don't want to go through it, but send us your questions. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else in this game, Jamie, that we
are we going to bring anybody else on?
Maybe if I feel like it.
Let's do one or two more.
Okay. I'll
You did say 3, so we should do at least one more.
I said 3?
I thought you did. Did you
I
not?
gave a number?
I thought you did.
Oh boy. All right. Well, okay. Well, let's while I go search for this. So let's talk about some of they had some issues early on with DeForest Buckner. They had Jelani Woods look good today, a little draft darling of ours. I think you did too, right? Did you like Jelani Wood?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. And there's a lot of before our eyes. So send us your questions. We're gonna get out of here, and I'll find somebody else to go. Jamie, let's see. How are you feeling about the Bosa and Slater coming back? Do you feel like, even though they're not going to get like a full workload in, do you think that it's going to be enough to really catapult this team into kind of peak Chargers heading into the playoffs?
Yeah, I actually feel like they've been peaking for a couple of weeks now. It seems like they're building towards something for the first time in years. And I'm not expecting to see Slater back. We haven't really heard anything about him. I would not hold my breath on him coming back at this point. But anytime you get a player of Joey Bosa's caliber, even if he's only coming on the field on third down to rush the passer, that helps, right? So I definitely think they're peaking. I think they're building towards the playoffs. The defense is so much better than it was even like 6 weeks ago. It's hardly even recognizable. But the pass protection is a problem, and the offensive play calling in general is a problem. The interior of that offensive line, Filer, is complete garbage right now. Zion has had his struggles, although he has been man-to-man with guys like Chris Jones and Buckner and, elite all-pro level defensive tackles almost every week, it seems like. For the last 8 weeks, he's been lining up one-on-one versus superstar defensive tackle. So hard to knock him too much, but they got to be able to protect Herbert to have a chance to win the playoffs, because if they can't keep him upright, they're in big trouble.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just getting everybody's stuff together. We'll see who responds, or if they've gone to bed already now, because it's getting a little late. Yeah, I mean, I hope that at some point Slater gets some actual work in before just throwing him into a playoff game. But man, I mean, Salyer's been okay, but Filer has been an issue. Zion has been a lot of back and forth, some good
up and down.
Yep, definitely. What we've talked about it. Jersel was asking the question. He's been struggling lately, and we've talked about how he's gone from 2 different centers, 3 at one point, 3 different right tackles, 2 or 3. Sorrell,
2, because
Storm never came in.
Norton hasn't been on the field yet, outside of maybe 1 or 2 plays.
Yeah. So it's just been, to me, it's just some real issues with continuity on either side of him.
Yeah, I think the continuity on the offensive line is a problem. But like I just mentioned, he's been lining up against guys like Buckner, Chris Jones. Last week it was Jeffrey Simmons, and they're not giving him a lot of help. He's one-on-one with all pro level defensive tackles, and He's had some good plays. He's had some bad plays. I think you kind of expect that.
Mhm.
I don't think he's as bad as people are making him out to be in the chat, but there's definitely some room for growth. And I think we'll see that growth. I still think he's going to be a very good guard for the Chargers
Mhm.
in the long term.
Yeah. How about Kyle Van Noy the last 3 weeks? 0 sacks and all of a sudden just shot out of a cannon. He's
Yeah,
been
I
great.
actually saw a comment from him on Twitter earlier in the week that was saying that he was not healthy early in the season. And he finally just started getting healthy over the last 3 or 4 weeks. And that's why he's starting to play better. So who knows if he's making an excuse or not, but he has been really, really good. And really just period. I mean, he's been good off the edge, rushing the passer. We saw him blow up a screen today. He's been good against the run, very productive, very disciplined, and he looks fresher and more explosive than he did early in the season.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, that screenplay was absolutely beautiful. Love that big blow up 9-yard loss. It was like he knew the play was coming. Let's see. Did the Colts beat everybody else? Biggest positive of the day, the Colts didn't end up being the AFC West. The Colts beat the Chiefs? Or was
I
that
think they did. I think they beat him in like a Monday night game, like a really sloppy Monday night game.
really? I don't remember that. Huh. Let's see what else. There punt returner. This is a good question from Clayton Ritchie. We'll probably take a question or two and then we'll get off here. Thoughts on someone else being a punt returner? 2 muff punts makes me nervous, and now he's in his head. That muff punt could have been bad, and
It could have been.
yeah. His returns haven't been good all the year. Not really. So you think they
Actually,
go
his punt returns have been pretty good. It's the kick returns that have been a struggle for him.
especially when they leave it short for him, which they've done. Teams have done.
Yeah, they don't have anybody else to return punts, really. I mean, I guess you could maybe put Jasir Taylor back there. Maybe you could activate Joe Reed, but they don't really have a lot of great options back there. They've kind of put themselves in a position where he's the best and only option.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know where you make that change now. I think it's too late. Do you have confidence that this team will be fixed before the playoffs?
The offense? No.
Yeah, I don't either. Nope.
I think the defense is fixed. I think that's the scary and frustrating thing right now is, you see Staley recognizing his shortcomings and fixing things and making adjustments and putting people in a position to succeed. And it's the same shit every single freaking week with Joe Lombardi. It never changes. And even normally they have, normally the scripted plays are pretty solid and they go down the field pretty quickly and score early in the game with the scripted plays. This week, the scripted plays were garbage too. Mm-hmm. There just was nothing. It was like he did nothing to prepare for the Colts. He had no idea what to expect or what to run, and there was no plan. It was terrible. So no, I don't think they'll get the offense fixed, and they're going to be playing against better defenses. And that's what's a little scary. Every team in the playoffs is probably going to have at least 2 quality pass rushers. Most of them have at least 1, if not 2 solid corners. They can get to the quarterback. They can cover. Most playoff defenses have guys who make plays on the football. It's going to be, it's a little scary with the condition the offense is in right now, trusting a playoff run to Joe Lombardi. I don't know how else to put it.
Yeah. And in the chat regarding the returner duty, Nasir Adderley, who returned to Delaware, but I mean, he hasn't done that in the NFL, so I don't know. You want to throw him out there before the playoffs? It just isn't going to change. And then, quite honestly, I think there's issues with this offense that I don't know that if it's ever going to be fixed if they've got Lombardi at offensive coordinator. To be honest with you, I mean, it's just we're at the end of the year. Things aren't better. There were questions about the offensive line, about, people being banged up, not having their wide receivers and everything else, but everybody's healthy, fairly healthy, and they've got all the weapons and they just can't get it done. And this Colts defense is not very good. They got some pretty good pass rushers. Their D line's okay, but outside of that, I mean, they should have absolutely torched him what they did do is they closed the door and they only gave up 3 points. The defense kept them in that game and basically won the game for them. But really, Lombardi scares me going into the playoffs, and you just hope that Herbert can just be a kind of turn it on, because we haven't seen a playoff Herbert. Primetime Herbert looks pretty good from time to time. Maybe we can have Herbert turn up in the playoffs too. So nobody else got back to me on the link. So appreciate you guys messaging me and then falling asleep. We are done here. Playoffs since 2018. Chargers haven't done it. They are now going into 2022. Thanks everybody for listening, and we will see you next time.
Thanks everybody.